Hello guys, today I wanted to talk with you about the top 10 largest advertising spenders in the world, and I wanted to talk about the larger industry in a whole a little bit, but specifically those 10 companies and their place in advertising. So we've got the top 10 largest advertising companies are number 1, Comcast Corporation, number 2, Procter & Gamble, number 3, AT&T, number 4, Amazon, number 5, General Motors, number 6, Verizon Communications, number 7 is the Ford Motor Company, number 8 is Charter Communications. Number 9 is Alphabet Inc. That's the parent company of Google and YouTube. And number 10 is Samsung. So let's break down this list a little bit. We got the bottom two, number 9 and 10. Actually, no. Yeah, okay, so 2 of these companies are manufacturers of phones as well as other services. 2 of these companies provide service to cell phones and so are like cell phone infrastructure. 2 of these companies are car companies. At least one of these is Procter & Gamble, of course, is consumer hygiene goods. Amazon is shipping and merchandising in general, merchandise. So, and Comcast is the parent company of NBC Universal. So Comcast is the number 1 advertiser and is currently the number 1 advertiser, and they are also they advertise for a lot of their sporting events. A lot of the Olympics is contracted with NBC, but all kinds of TV shows and things like that as well. So you've got quite a bit of companies here that are spending. I mean, and the bottom of this list is still companies who are spending over $1 billion a year. So Comcast may be the biggest spender by spending. They spent $5.75 billion, but even the 10th biggest spends at least $1 billion, and the top 10 largest advertisers, or the top 10 biggest ad spenders in the world, happen to spend $32.6 billion total within a year, and that total represents less than 5% though of the global total of advertising spend of all companies, of all spenders. So the total spent in the year of 2021 on ad spending, the total spent on advertising in 2021 was $689 billion. Now that is a record year in advertising. Of course, inflation means that you have to go back and adjust to see what the dollar was worth when the advertisers earned it in the past. But nevertheless, we are still seeing remarkable rises in advertising spending, and that may or may not change going forward, but recent events involving Apple and their operating system updates are going to affect some online advertising, which I'll get into later. But these companies, a lot of them have been household names for decades, even over a century. And some of these companies are rather new, and some of these companies are advertisers themselves. For instance, Alphabet is not only do they spend at least $2 billion in advertising every single year, and yet they receive, and yet much of their revenue, if not the majority of their revenue comes from advertising. So tons of money is spent advertising from advertisers to either advertise on YouTube or Google, or of course also to collect Google data, YouTube data. So Google's making tons of money advertising. They're making tons of money from advertising, and they are a part of the advertising industry, as in they're a distributor of advertising messages. But they also advertise their own services, such as YouTube and Gmail and whatever. Google has a long list of products and services, but in their cloud services, things like that they like to advertise, things that they're expanding into. So Google's unique in this list, but I'm sure that Amazon as well, being a number 4 biggest spender, I'm sure that they receive quite a bit in advertising dollars themselves. So that they're not only spending, they're not only the number 4 spender in advertising, Amazon, but they also most likely receive a good deal of money from advertising. So you've got a variety of, you got quite a bit of different types of companies here, but what's fascinating is that they really don't represent, not one of these companies really represents, they all spend over $1 billion at least on advertising a year, but not one of them represents, but even the top 10 of them don't represent even 5% of the industry. So we're not talking about a huge disparity in ad spending from one company to another. It all seems like one big class of, I can go down the list further and try to find out what comes after 10 and go into the top 20, top 30, top 40 of these advertising spenders, and see how much these companies, and see how far down the list and collectively how much their spending is nearing $700 billion. So not one of these companies really represents more than 1% of the entire industry. So there's a diverse range of products and companies that produce them that want to be advertised, and it's a fascinating field and something that I'm always going to